Are you striving to achieve a higher level of performance or that certain look? There is help. Welcome to the Super Strength Podcast, featuring candid conversations and motivating stories of success. Now, here is your host.
Hello, this is your host, Nick Jaworski, and I am here with Ray Toulany, and today we'll be talking with Ray about the power of abbreviated training and how it's the key to maximum development for lifters, especially drug-free naturals. Now, we will be discussing why less is more when it comes to weight training, examples of routines for real drug-free lifters, the dirty little secret most bodybuilding magazines don't want you to know, and how a suntan is the perfect analogy when it comes to training. Now, before Ray joins us, just a reminder that if you have questions or require any sort of assistance from him, you can reach Ray online at www.raytoulany.com, that's RAYTOULANY.com, or on his Facebook page at facebook.com/Ray Toulany Strength and Conditioning. Ray, welcome.
What's crack-a-lackin', Nick?
Oh, not much. I'm ready to talk about this and continue my education in strength training. Now, today's episode is titled "The Power of Abbreviated Training," and I don't know much about the world, and that's my own problem. But I do know what abbreviated means, and it means short. But you know, my understanding of working out is that it's every day, that it's a long time, that you're at the gym, it's time extensive. What do you mean when you're talking about abbreviated exercises?
Well, kind of like what you said, short. Most people, they like the idea of more. More is better, right? More money, more toys, more cars, more fun, more sex, more. And in many of those instances, probably all of those instances, I'd agree, right? More fun, more laughing, more love. But when it comes to training, that's not exactly the case. So we'll get into more detail in a minute here. But with abbreviated training, what I mean is keeping the training in terms of the amount of days that you actually train, as well as the sessions themselves, relatively short, okay? So you hear about these marathon sessions, like you had said, that are practically every day of the week.
Right.
That's really not, that's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about old school way, the way that it was done in the past. So yeah.
Well, so can you give me an example of what this abbreviated approach, the technique, what does that look like?
Okay, so I'll basically outline a routine for you.
All right.
And okay, so real basic one. Here we go. So you basically have really the fundamental compound movements. We've discussed this before, and compound movements are the really best bang for the buck. So here we go. So we have power cleans. You might do them for, let's say, 5 sets of 5. Overhead press, 5 sets of 5. Bench press, 5 sets of 5. Squats, 5 sets of 5. Now,
all right,
doesn't need to be 5 sets of 5. And but if you look at that, that's roughly 20 sets. And obviously some of those sets would be considered warm-up sets. So they're not all working sets where you're really pushing yourself. And in many traditional, bodybuilding routines, 20 reps, what I just mentioned, that covers the entire body. In a lot of traditional bodybuilding routines, you wouldn't even have finished with one body part yet in 20 sets. You can also perform grip, ab, and calf work if you want at the end of this workout. There's many variations on this. So that would have been day 1. Day 2, you'd switch it up. You'd have snatch, which I know there's guys snickering right now when they hear that, but obviously Olympic movement is what I'm talking about. So you got snatches, you got one-arm dumbbell press, you have dips, you have deadlifts. And again, you could do grip, ab, or calf work also at the end of the workout. And, I'm using like 5 sets of 5 as an example, but you can obviously play around with that number. And, that's like a 2-day-a-week routine. You could swap it up. You could do, let's say, like a 3-day-a-week routine if you wanted to. Another example I want to throw out there very quick for people who have either limited time. I know that I've run into situations where my work schedule has just been so crazy that I haven't had the time to put in full-length workouts. And when that's happened to me, it's mental, like almost like a mental block. I'm almost like, I need to get my full workouts in, and my schedule is just not compatible. And I end up sometimes training at really stupid hours of the night, and it's just not working for me. When the reality is I should just say, you know what, this is the reality of my situation right now. I need to accept that. If I'm doing everything in my power and I still can't get a full routine in, well, then maybe I should cut it back to the bare essentials. And I'm going to give you an example right now of one. And that would simply be, again, a 2-day. You could do it either 2 or 3 times a week. It'd be power cleans and overhead presses on one day. And again, you could do grip, ab, or calf work at the end. And the other day would be like bench and squat. And if you want, you could do those 2 or 3 times a week, like a Monday, Wednesday, Friday kind of split. This also works well for people who tend to not recover very quickly, whether you just naturally don't recover quickly, or maybe if you're a little bit older and you can't quite train as long as somebody who might be, a bit younger. Those are examples. And I know people right now are freaking out saying, what the heck? Where's all the other exercises? But anyway, let's.
So what you're saying is that, and I'm going to bring some knowledge back from the earlier podcasts. Due to the fact that these are compound movements, that we're exercising more muscles at one time, and we don't have to spend as long. And I guess, how long would these workouts, how long are you at the gym for, let's say, a 3-day-a-week routine like this?
There's no reason you should be in the gym for any longer than an hour and a half, including your warm-ups. Okay. In these routines, you could probably bang them out in 45 minutes to an hour.
All right. So that's pretty good. I mean, 3 days a week for an hour and a half. I mean, people have time for that. Yeah.
And the reality is, Tommy Kono's a living legend. Okay. He's well into his 80s now. He's a living legend. He multiple world champion, gold medal winner in the Olympics. He's won Mr. Universe competitions. The guy's just unbelievably strong, was built like a Greek god, phenomenal Olympic weightlifter from the U.S. Everybody should look up Tommy Kono and even buy his books, because it's great info. He talks about not needing any more than an hour and a half 3 times a week. And this is for Olympic level caliber athletes. Now, I know what some people are going to say. They're going to go, okay, but that was, 40 years ago. Things have changed. There's more specialization now. We've learned different things. And to a certain degree, I agree with that. But at the end of the day, the reality is more is not necessarily better. There is a certain amount of work that you just need to do. You need to move a certain amount of tonnage to get the results that you need at the end of the day. But when your mentality is to go in there and just, like as he said, you got these guys are training and they've gone beyond the point of diminishing returns. And essentially what he said is, you've just basically got a bunch of guys that have been able to train long. And he said, what's the added benefit of that? There really is no added benefit to doing that. You only need to train as much as you need to train to achieve your goal, whatever that may be. So it may vary somewhat, but the thinking should be, what is the minimum I can do to achieve my goal? Not because you're looking to be lazy or cut corners, but because at the end of the day, which we'll explain a little bit more in a minute here, there is no benefit going beyond that point. It actually will harm you. And we'll touch on that in a minute.
Now, I'm going to take a guess and assume that a lot of sort of the magazines or maybe websites would suggest that this is the lazy approach, or you're not going to be doing enough if you took sort of this abbreviated approach that you're outlining. Is that right?
To a certain degree, yeah. I mean, look, here's the problem. A lot of the times in the magazines, we've talked about it, I believe, before, a lot of those routines they were based on like the champions. Number one, a guy who's a champion bodybuilder, I know I don't like the genetics card. You and I, we already talked about this before. But to a certain degree, that guy could probably handle a little bit more training than the next guy, or he probably can get better results with less training than the next guy. Who knows?
Right.
But anyway, once you throw the steroids into the mix, and the fact that these guys are training to be the elite level athletes, they may require more than, a regular guy may. Okay. Not only that, when you throw in the steroids, you're able to train more and you can recover quicker, and you're able to train in ways and get results that a natural lifter cannot emulate. It just doesn't work. So the type of splits that you see nowadays, their origins come from like the 40s and 50s, when bodybuilders would take their training from like 3-day-a-week full body routines. And what they would essentially do is come close to the competition, let's say like 6 weeks out, 5 weeks out, 8 weeks out, they would actually start doing a split, kind of like what you see today. So they would split it up where instead of it being full body workouts or upper and lower body workouts over the week, they would have, chest and triceps one day, shoulders one day, legs one day, backs one day. They would break it all up like that, right? And the reason is because by being able to do more work, you can really hone and polish that muscle from all kinds of different angles. But you will not develop your body to that level of strength and actual muscular development, like have that actual bulk on your body of size of muscle, by following that type of routine all the time. Those type of routines are just meant to polish up what you've built with traditional, 2 to 4 day a week type routines, shorter abbreviated type of training, focusing on the main compound lifts.
Well, so we have to take a quick break, but we'll be back here with Ray Toulany, and we're going to talk more about abbreviated training and why it works so well. So don't go anywhere. We will be right back.
Stay tuned for more of the Super Strength Podcast with Ray Toulany after we hear from our sponsors. Did you know the most popular workouts today involve kettlebells? It's no surprise. Kettlebells offer a much greater range of motion for increased muscular endurance. Due to the displaced center of gravity, kettlebells are much harder to control, placing increased demands on agility, core stabilization, and coordination. Order your kettlebells today at raytoulany.com/kettlebells. That's RAYTOULANY.com/kettlebells. Did you know a strong core not only helps improve power and balance, it can also help decrease the likelihood of injuries. And nothing looks better than a strong, lean midsection. The Power Wheel delivers by challenging your abs, obliques, back, hips, and glutes. The Power Wheel is the perfect piece of equipment for all fitness levels. Get your Power Wheel today at raytoulany.com/powerwheel. That's RAYTOULANY.com/powerwheel. Now let's get back to the Super Strength Podcast with Ray Toulany.
All right, we are back with Ray Toulany talking about abbreviated training. And Ray, so we touched on it a little bit in the first half, but why, in your opinion, does abbreviated training work so well?
All right, from the 50,000 kind of foot view, here's a couple reasons.
All right.
Okay. It causes forced efficiency and effectiveness. When you're only training for a short period of time and only with a limited amount of exercises,
then you're
going to screw around.
Yeah, you've got to do it right.
You got to do it right, and you got to focus on the best bang for the buck in terms of exercises. And that's one of the things that it does for you.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing is it allows you to go heavy, okay? And it allows you to go all out, which those are kind of 2 points, but they, to a certain degree, kind of go together.
Mm-hmm.
The reality is this. You could either train long or you can train hard in terms of high intensity, okay? You can't train with full-out intensity as long as you can with lighter intensity or less intensity. It just doesn't work. You can't lift your maximum weight for the same amount of times that you could lift a weight that's 10% of that. It just doesn't happen, right?
Mm-hmm.
So to get real effects, natural lifters, and even guys who are using stuff, if you really want to get good effects from your training, you want to train heavy and all out, lots of intensity. Get in there, get the weight work done, and get out. Okay, and that's what this allows you to do because A, you're focusing on the big lifts, and B, it's just a short period of time. Okay, so next, it allows you to, it actually minimizes the risk of overtraining, which we'll touch on a little bit in a minute here. But because you're in and out so quick, you're not overdoing things, okay? And that's an important thing. Although I will say more people probably undertrain than overtrain.
Sure.
And that's a show in all of itself.
Yeah.
But I just, I know there's a lot of guys out there, oh, I don't want to overtrain. I'm afraid to work hard. Man, get the hell out of here, okay? That's another story here for another show. But anyway, it allows more time for recuperation, again, because you're in and out so quick. And you're not just wasting time on exercises that really aren't doing anything for you. And the other thing it does is, again, allows you to be in and out quickly, which means you can get back to your regular life. Okay. Most people, once they get to a certain age, they have responsibilities, man. They got school, they have university, they have work, they have family.
Mm-hmm.
They can't afford to go live the Muscle Beach lifestyle that was shown in the magazines where, you train for 2, 4, 5 hours a day and lounge on the beach. That's just, that's not happening for your average person.
Right.
So you want to get in. You got to have the mentality, man. Get in, get the work done, get out. Almost like a special forces team, man. Just get in, hit hard, and get out.
I like that. Now, what about the people who are going to say to you, Ray, how can I sort of fine tune this specific muscle group if I'm not focusing on that group, every other day, every day specifically? I mean, what are you going to say to that in response?
Okay, right. So I think what you're talking about is, again, the type of routines where guys are doing 20, 30 sets per body part. They're using 50 exercises. Okay. Here's the reality. A natural lifter needs to train heavy and hard, as I said. Okay. And you can't train with sufficient effort to do justice to all of those sets. Okay. And even if you could, the reality is all of those reps and all of those sets, they would drain you. They would cut so deep into your recuperative abilities that you're going to end up either overtrained or you're going to get nothing for gains. It's just not going to do anything for you. So you don't want that. Now, going on to the suntan example.
Oh,
Mike
yes.
Mentzer.
Yes.
Yeah. Mike Mentzer was a bodybuilder and he was controversial. Okay. And if anything, the guy he took abbreviated training to the extreme. Okay. But at any rate, he had a very good